Hello and welcome to another live stream. This is streaming for Artemis Cosmos. I'm working on a mission script. If you watch the other two streams, this is my third one. And today I'm going to be continuing on with developing some of this AI stuff. We're doing a small correction from the last stream where I did something wrong. And also just working through this. Now, there was... Ooh, it's working all right. Yep. There was a... I put up a post on the Artemis forums, and I got a bit of feedback that actually this screen that you were looking at was quite small, and you couldn't quite see the text. So what I've done is I've gone... And you can see this is my main screen. This is what I can see. So this is my desktop screen. But if I go to this one, I've gone and I've zoomed in a little bit for you. So hopefully you can start to see a bit more of the text. If you want it zoomed in further and you're watching live, please do tell me. If you're watching after the fact, then give me a shout and I will, on the Artemis forums or something, and I will endeavour to do better to make it so that you can actually see what I'm writing. So if I go back to here, so I've got my scripting notes open, I've got my documentation open, I've got the script open as well that I've been working on. Last time I started developing this AI control, so I started making some AI to pass to different ships and tell them how to behave, and I came up with this very basic attack AI. I was thinking about this earlier today and I thought AI control, I might want to put more classes in this, so I might call this just TSN add-ons for now. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to rename that, and hopefully it'll rename it everywhere, so I'll call it there we go, TSN add-ons, and it should have renamed it here, and it should have also renamed it here. Excellent. So I've got my TSN add-ons. I figured then what I can do is I can start putting more classes into this. So if I go in here, you can see I've got this class for AI control. It's probably going to be a pretty big class, but then I thought I could also have a class for other bits and pieces that I might want to do, maybe like fleet spawning. That was something I considered working on. Now, last time I streamed, I looked at the very beginning of this stream, I looked at doing this set dataset name tag. I'd spawned stations, and I'd found that the stations were spawning with a randomly generated name. I managed to catch up with Tom about this and ask how was it that I could rename stations, and he pointed me towards this. So I can gather the data for all the station together, and then I can go, right, I'm going to change the name tag to the name that I've got in my list, the named data, which is generated. If you watch my first video, you'll see how I've kind of generated that this list of named data. So I don't think I need range and length in here either, so I'm going to consider that, but I'll come back to that later. It's not a change I need to make immediately. So what I'd done was I gone and named it, and at the start of my stream I looked at it and I thought, oh yeah, it's named fine, because if I load up the actual Artemis game, I'll load this up here and let's switch to the game server screen. Interesting, it's not picked it up. There we go. Okay, so this is the game server, and I go into practice script, and it should load that script. And then I looked, and I was like, oh yeah, I've got the 3 points on here: DS10, DS36, and DS45. It's worked. I've named them. But what I neglected to realize was these aren't the actual name of the bases. These are the name of the nav points, and the nav points I had actually named. So I had nav point coordinates, then I had the nav point name. And actually, I don't know if the bases are named that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of those nav points by just commenting it out and putting the hash symbol, and it comments that whole line out. So it means that the code ignores it. And then I'm going to go here, and that's interesting. Nav points have stayed. So I need to reload the game. And you didn't see me actually commenting it out because I've got to go back to my normal screen, but I'm just going to reload the game here. Get rid of that one. Here we go. I've reloaded it. Practice. There we go. Nav points have disappeared because I've got rid of them. So I should have a couple of bases this direction now. Let's fly along this asteroid field. I don't want to go into it. It's quite a dense asteroid field. I know a couple of people who are going to love flying through these. Especially if I make them a little bit more dense. The asteroid fields, that is. Here we go. Where are these bases? There's one base. Is that it? What is it? DS10. Excellent. The base is renamed. Good. Good. So it's actually taken the name and it's renamed the base for me. Perfect. Just what I want. All right. Let's go back to this. So here's the line, the nav point line that I commented out. Now, without that in, trying to find those bases is going to be a nightmare because there's no science screen yet. So I'm going to leave that comment in so that you can find the nav point. So that's that fixed and checked, so that works. Now the other bit was I created some enemies here. I thought what I might want to do is create an enemy class, and in that enemy class have it so that I could spawn different numbers of enemies and perhaps even different formations. So I could define a formation, I could define enemies. Now I was thinking of working on this AI control. I did say last time that I'd do a bit more on the AI control, but actually I fancy doing fleets. So let's call it fleet. Okay, so to create a class, I just give it a name. Could I be a bit more specific? Not just fleet. Could I call it like fleet of ships? No. Just call it fleet for now. I can come back and rename it and it'll do it for me. Right, so I need to define the initialization, and then I need to pass in some variables. So when I'm spawning a fleet, what do I want to do? I suppose when I'm spawning a fleet, what I want to do is I want to... Let's just turn that up a bit so you still got music in the background. Hopefully that's not too loud. Alright, what I want to do is... I want to say what ships are inside that fleet. I want to say how many of those ships I've got. And I want to say what formation they're in. So when I'm first creating the object fleet, I want to do like the composition. So let's do self.composition equals. So let's add in a variable here of the composition. So what's it composed of? What ships are inside that fleet? So what ships could I choose from to go inside that fleet, right? Then I want a size. So I want a size of the fleet. So how many ships are in that fleet? And then I wonder if I want like a power of that fleet, and I could measure like the different capabilities. So if it was a light fleet. So I've not really planned any of this out. I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. What can I call it? Power, strength. So when I create a fleet object, I want to say what ships are in the fleet. I want to say how big the fleet is, and I want to say the strength of that fleet. So let's define a spawn. I want the coordinates of where I want to spawn to be defined in there. So you create your fleet object, and then you'd define the coordinates of where it is. So let's see. This one. Here we go. Let's grab that code. Object to reposition, and then reposition 1, 2, and 3. So this would be coordinate 0. So my coordinate's going to be a tuple list, I think, which means it's a list in brackets and it's uneditable. Something else that somebody said was that they watched a bit of this live stream and they didn't know any Python coding, so they kind of tuned out, which is fair enough. If people want and are interested, I can talk more through what bits and pieces mean. It won't be like a tutorial video, but when I'm talking through, I can simplify things so it makes it a little bit clearer as to what I'm on about, instead of just using loads of coding terms. It's probably going to make people's heads spin who actually do know how to code and use Python well, but you know, never mind. So we've got spawn fleet. I want to pass in the coordinates. So coordinates is going to be a list of 3 numbers. So I want to say coordinates. I spelled coordinates wrong. Coordinates. I want the first one of that. So that was position 0. And then I want the second one of that, which will be the Y value, which is position 1 in the list. And I want the third one of that, which is the Z value. Interesting. I need to pass in sim. I wonder if I need to do that and then go self.sim, because if I don't pass in sim, then what's that referencing? Did I have to do it with this? I didn't have to do it with SBS, but then I imported SBS up here. There's nowhere else either that I'm using sim there. Right, okay, so self.sim, make new active, behavior, NPC ship, battleship. Okay, so this is going to be for a fleet. So this behavior NPC ship will always be the same. It's not going to be a station. So it's always going to be NPC ship. And then this is going to be based on the composition. Call that ship ID. And then call that ship. And then call that ship ID. And then call that ship. We'll just call it ship. Okay. So that needs to be based on the composition. So it needs to be ship type. So I need to define a variable here, and it needs to be based upon the different ship types that I can spawn. So those ship types are the ones from the composition. The composition is going to be a list of ship types. And then I've got my strength. So for ships in size. In self.size. In range self.size. So I think I can get it to randomly choose from the composition. Okay, so I can do it with random. So I need to import random. Okay. So it's random.choice. Ship type equals random dot choice, and then the sequence is self dot composition. So it's going to pick from the composition. So let's add some notes up here. Size. I know there's a way of doing this as well, like with some kind of help text, but I don't know that. Okay, so strength is how hard hitting the fleet is. Now, what I can do... So for S in range size, ship type is that. Randomly choose from composition. The ship ID is that. Then you do that, and then you put them in the coordinates. Right. Let's try this spawn fleet. So I'm going to comment out that because eventually I want to get rid of that. 1, 2, 3. Comment out that. 1, 2, 3. And go pass. Okay, so we go here. TSN add-ons dot fleet. So composition. This is going to be a Krellian fleet. So what ships do I have for the Krellians? Let's just transition over here so we can look at this bit. Data ship. Data JSON. Right, okay. So for the Krellians, currently we've got a battleship and we've got a dreadnought. So here's my dreadnought and here's my battleship. And that's the two that are currently in this version of Artemis. So composition, I'm just going to put a list and I'm going to put battleship and then I'm going to put comma, I'm going to put dreadnought. Eventually that will be like lists of its own, so maybe I'll do Krellian because Krellian will then be that. Let's do dictionaries or something, but I'll come back to that later. After composition, it's size, so I want this to be 3 ships. After size, it's strength, so I want this to be, I'll just put light. And then sim, so we'll go sim. Like that. Okay, so that will spawn, that will create that object. So Krellian fleet equals that. Now if I do Krellian fleet dot spawn fleet, and let's whack in coordinates, negative 5,000, 0, negative 10,000. That is going to 2-polar. Okay. So that's my fleet object. That's my actual fleet spawning. Okay. And that should spawn once. Let's see if this works. Sorry, I'll go back here so you can see. So what I've done is I've referenced this TSN add-ons. I've said I want to create the fleet object. So this class here will create me an object called fleet. When I do that, I need 3 values. And then I need the sim as well. So my first value is what ships can be in that fleet. My second value is how many of those ships there are. My third value is what type of fleet that's going to be. And my final value is just a sim. And then once I've created those, it sets them as these like internal variables, as it were, inside this class. So self.sim is the same as sim and all the way through like that. And then I've got this method that when I call this method, when I say, right, do this on this object that I've created, it will set up a fleet. It'll look at the size of that fleet, the number, and then it'll create a ship, and it will randomly choose from the composition, and it'll give it the behavior, and it'll do that, and then it'll reference it, and then it will move it to those coordinates, and then it goes back and does it again. Okay. And let's add in here plus 100 times S. So it'll put them 100 below, so it's going to stack them. In fact, no, let's not put it there. plus 100 times S. So it's going to put them 100 next to each other. Okay. Let's get the game server back up. Here it is. I'm just going to make it big on here. There we go. Practice script. Or has it done it? It's done it. Well, I never. So I say that because I am still learning this, and actually to be able to do it is quite cool. So it looks like there's... No, there are 3 different ships there as well. Oh, that's brilliant. So we've got a battleship and 2 cruisers. Now if I go back and I do it again, I should technically have a different composition. Depends what it's chosen. No, it's got the same composition. Interesting. Close that. Try reloading it. Here we go. Come around this way. Go forward. This should have a different composition. Yes, look, you see the first ship is a different ship this time. Oops. See, the first ship this time is the battle cruiser, or the dreadnought, and then the other 2 ships are the cruisers. Flying in formation with 3 Krillians. It's pretty cool. Practice script. Does it do it again? So what'll be interesting is if I have to like clear the objects or something. What we got this time? No, it seems it's... I don't have to clear the objects. Good. Should really put them a bit closer. And possibly below, so I didn't have to do as much maneuvering. Alright. So that's doing what I want it to do. Now, let's see, next part. I've done spawn fleet. I've done coordinates now. This bit could go into formation. That'd be interesting. So strength. Right, let's do this strength, because the strength, I want it to decide what ships to get. Now, let me go to my other view here, because here, in fact, no, I'll bring it back. I'll try keeping this zoomed in view. What I can do... hang on a second. Let's see. We have got. I can do that. I can do tick type. I can find out the type. I can get the data set. I can get the unique IDs. What else can I do? Beam count. Number of beams currently on the ship. Beam timer. Death state. Death tick. Shield count. Shield maximum value. That's interesting. Weapon target unique ID. I wonder if that is finding out what weapons are targeting a particular ship and the ID of that ship. Or the ID of the weapon's target. That would make sense. Let's see. Target position, target ID, throttle. So, how much damage this has taken. System max damage. Maximum damage the system can take. Max shield max value. Most points this shield can have. Let's go and look at this. Where's the code gone? So this relates to this information here. So shields 80, those are the maximum values. Hull points 3. Shields 120, hull points 4. So maybe strength should be an integer. What I want to do is I want to say, right, choose a ship, create that ship, and then get it as an object. Do I want to do that? No. I wonder, instead of having size as in the number of ships, just have strength. What about if I go like this? So if I create a fleet list, as a blank list. So okay. So if I want to check how big these are. So I want to say, oh, those aren't my notes. Where are my notes gone? Not that one. My notes are here. That's streaming all right. Yep. Okay, so let's do system damage. How much damage this has taken? No, system max damage. That's the one that I want. So I want to check the system max damage of a ship in that fleet list. So if because I'm going to add the ship to the fleet list. For item in fleet list. How do I get the data from the fleet list? Ship ID.this set. So we've got data.get system max damage 0. Here we go. Right. Somebody's pinged me. Nope. So for every ship in the fleet list, okay. Print data.get. Like that. Let's get rid of that. And then that I think that was for S in range size. That was right, wasn't it? In self dot size. So for S in range self dot size, do that. In fact, why don't I do it here? So I want to go ship data equals ship dot dataset. Okay. I'm going to do ship data dot get and grab that data. And then let's do current strength plus equals plus. Is it equals plus? Or is it plus equals? Plus equals. Right, okay. If current strength is less than the self.strength, less than self.strength, then what about if I do while current strength is less than self.strength? And then change this to current strength equals 0. Let's call this max strength. So we'll call this max strength, and we'll call this max strength. I could have just refactored, I know, because it allows me to do that, but never mind. Okay, so the maximum strength of the fleet, the size, as in the maximum number of ships, and the composition. So let's go max number, max ships. Maximum ships, maximum strength. So, composition of ships, maximum number of ships, maximum strength of fleet. And then I set up another data saying the current strength of the fleet is 0. So when there's nothing spawned, the current strength of the fleet is 0. Okay. Then, while it's less than that, that's fine. But if your maximum strength gets too high, then it's going to stop that. So if I say right here, maximum strength needs to be an integer, so maximum strength is going to be 10. Okay, so and I'm going to say 3 ships. So 3 ships, battleships and dreadnoughts. So a dreadnought has a hull points of 4. And battleship has 3. So if there's 3 battleships, that's 9. If there's 3 battleships, that's 16. So let's go 20. So then it's well above. So I should be able to spawn 3 battleships or 3 dreadnoughts. Or a combination of all of them. Okay. Where is the game? Let's see if I break it. Start server. Practice script. Okay, turn this way. Really do need to spawn them closer. Interesting. Okay, I didn't want to do that. Never mind. It's a pretty cool fleet though. Oh, I know why. Look, it spawned one lot, then two lots, then three lots. So what I've got? I've got one, four battleships. Oops, oh dear. One, two, three. Let's go above you. One, two, three. Four battleships, right. Okay, that's not worked as I wanted. Oh, we're gonna have... Hello? Oh, that's interesting. I cannot hear you. I think it's my problem. In a second. It would seem that my TeamSpeak is not. So Gary's joined me in the TeamSpeak. However, it would seem that it's not actually picking up my headphones. Apply. Right. Try now. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Yes, we can hear Gary. Excellent. Hello. You are live. What's that one off bow selector with the Davina McCall? I'm not going to say it. Yeah. She says while swearing. Right, so while current strength is less than the max strength, I'm trying to figure out at the minute. So what I've done is I've created a class to be able to spawn enemy fleets of different compositions. And I've got three things to define the fleets that you spawn. I've got the composition of the fleets. So whether what ships will spawn within that fleet. Then I've got the maximum number of ships that spawn and the maximum strength of those ships that spawn. And I think I need to put that as an if. To go like that. And then now it says for the number of maximum ships, if the current strength of the fleet is less than the maximum strength defined, then you can go through the code and spawn another one. To the stream. Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn you up on here as well because I can't quite hear you. You can also tell me how loud the music is, and if it's any good. Where's my... There. Should be a link on our Discord. Paste. There you go. Oh, right, yes. Yeah. That's the other one. That's for other games. So, you should be able to see my code here and what I'm working on. And I've got the class that I've created. It's a new fleet class. Then I've got the composition of the fleet. I've got the maximum number of ships I can have. I've got the maximum strength that the fleet could be. And the maximum strength is based off the damage values of all the ships added together. So basically you could say I want 20 ships, but I only want a maximum strength of 3. It's going to spawn 1 Krallian, basically. That's the idea. It's not worked just yet, but I think it's because I had a while statement instead of a for statement and if. So let's see. Here's Cosmos. There's my practice script. I want to turn around. So I've been streaming for about an hour, so I might. Don't know how much longer I'll go on. Go over here. And I've got 3 ships spawned. Excellent. The right number of ships have spawned this time. And I've got 2 strength 3 and 1 strength 4 ship. So I've got a dreadnought in the middle. They look really, really nice on Cosmos, do the ships. They're lit differently. The lighting, there's like, I don't know how it's lit in Artemis now, but in Artemis Cosmos there's different lighting. So it's changed the look of the ships. So these are stupid at the minute, by the way. I've not added any AI to them. See, I've got up here an AI control class, which I'm going to feed into this fleet class so that you can define then what kind of AI you have going on. So you can then spawn a fleet of a certain size, and you can say, I want in that fleet to have this AI, and you can write some really complex AI. Right, if I say in this fleet I want a maximum of 10 ships, and I want the maximum strength of all those 10 ships to sum up to 10, that should give me 3 of the battleships, or 2 of the dreadnoughts, or 1 battleship and 1 dreadnought. So it should either give me 3 or 2 ships. See if it works. So go this way. So I should have, I bet I have 3 battleships. Oh no, I've got 4 ships. Interesting.
So have you got another screen that we can't see?
Why?
Down sensors, because like when you're saying, oh, I've got 4 ships, I was looking around for. I was like, oh, where are those ships?
Oh, in the bottom right here.
Yeah, I can see the pink icons, but when you, I'm probably a bit behind on your stream.
Yeah. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. No, I've got 5 ships. Okay. So that means I'm not figuring out the strengths correctly. Let's go back here. These lines that I'm adding in at the minute are so that I can debug, so I can figure out on screen in the game what these variables are doing. Let's put that on there. Plus the string of this. And then if I do is plus the string of that, oops. And then So I'm going to track the fleet strength using this. So I can say, right, the fleet strength is this. Then the ship strength is that, and then the new fleet strength is this. Right, and that should print out in the debug screen. There we go. Right. Practice. Fleet strength is 0. Ship strength is 2. Nuke fleet strength is 2. Fleet strength is 2. Ship strength is 2. Nuke fleet strength is 4. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, go this way. That. So it's created 5 ships for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, okay. And then I said, I want you to create a maximum of 10 ships with a maximum value of 10. So if I go create a maximum of 3 ships, what happens? One, 2, 3. Good. Yeah, it works. So I can define the maximum number of ships that I want. And I can define the strength of that fleet that I want as well. That's pretty good. So I can say this is how many hit points I want that fleet to have, or this is how many, and this is how many ships that I want it to have in total. So the number of ships outweighs the strength of it combined. All right, let's get rid of that, because that is working as I want it to work. So the next one is I want to define an AI self, and then at the minute it's just pass. Let's go type. Okay, so I need to come back to that bit. But what I've been able to do in this stream is I've been able to create this fleet. Oh no, not AI. I didn't want AI. I want formation. That was the next one. So the next thing that I want to do with my code is I want to be able to set up a fleet, and I want to decide what formation that fleet will be in. So I want to go, right, this is my fleet. It's these ships, it's maximum of these ships, and it's maximum of this strength. Then I want to say spawn it here. And I also want to say spawn it in this formation. See, the cool thing is I could spawn fleets in a formation where the ships above each other and below each other and next to each other. So they could be in like a vertical diamond formation. Say diamond. Like a vertical box formation or a diamond formation. They could be in a triangle formation where they've got one at the top and 2 down, left and right. They could be in a delta formation where they're trailing behind, above and below. The formations potentially could be infinite. And like you could choose a random formation, so they go into a random formation. Even you could even have them move into an attack formation when they move to attack. So when they're within a certain range of the target that they're going for, they could move into an attack formation. So they could be in a line, and when they're in a certain range, they could go out to like line abreast and attack, or like a
Thinking that they could scatter
yeah,
if they were being chased, they could all just scatter in all directions and
yeah, yeah.
different fighters as well.
So up here in the AI control, so I've created this TSN add-ons. In the AI control, I've got a very basic AI that's just attack, and that will look at a ship. It'll go, that's my target. So you define the target and say that's the target, and it will move to that position and it'll fire at that ship. And that's all that AI does. Dead simple. The ship moves to the target and shoots at it. But then I was working on this evade, and I was going to work on that for this stream, but I decided against it. The evade is you can get the system damage, and you can say, is that system damage less than half of the maximum damage? If it's less than half, oh, sorry, if it's bigger than half, then it says it's fine. But if it's not, it says, oh dear. The only thing is, this SBS broad test is currently broken. And when that gets fixed, I can finish this bit of AI off. But the idea is that it tests around it to find out what is targeting it, and then it runs away from whatever's targeting it.
Oh, that's clever.
So if the player's ship is targeting it, and its system's damage is down to half, it's going to turn and run away from the player's ship. So it's going to break off from the formation and evade. And then eventually you could put in like how brave is that ship? In other words, how likely is it gonna be that it will turn around and re-engage when it's already damaged, or is it gonna wait? Go on.
The sort of predicting when an AI ship is going to surrender or something, this will add a bit of randomization to it that means people can't predict when they're going to win the battle.
Absolutely, yeah. There's that, and it'd be really cool to go and attack ships and see the damaged ships peeling off and going away and dropping out the fight, and then you've got other ones to focus on. I think it'll just add a really interesting dynamic, because at the minute they will sit there until they're dead and they'll just blow up. But with this, like, they'll come and they'll quite happily, you know what it's like, they'll just sit toe to toe with you and shoot. And something I tried in the current version of Artemis with the sandbox was creating an AI where they go on to evasive maneuvers, and it worked. But what happened was that you had to define it for every single ship that was going to do it, and you had to keep track of every single ship. And that was like I had 2 Torgoth ships that I set it up with as NPC ships, and they moved towards each other. They attacked, and when one was damaged and the shields was down, it peeled off, and the other one chased it. And when its shields were up, it came back round and they re-attacked. And it was really fun to watch, actually, because I just set it going and I just watched these 2 Torgoths battling. It was like an endless battle because they kept evading one another when the shields went down. It was really good. But with this, you'll be able to do that with whole fleets. So you could go in, you could attack a few Krellians, and when the fleet strength is like falling off, the whole fleet might kind of run off at the same time, and you've broken that fleet and off it goes, kind of thing, because they don't want the ships to be destroyed. So the depth there that you can get with AI is going to be so much better. And then it's like when they're so far away and they're starting fixing up, maybe they regroup and they come back in. So you're like, oh, we've broken that fleet, they go in, and then suddenly you're concentrating on this next fleet, and suddenly they're back, and it's like, oh, just a minute, where have they come from again? You know,
I'm looking forward to that.
the whole dynamic of this. Now, this is right in its infancy, because all I've got currently is you can spawn a fleet of ships, and the nice bit is you can define the composition, the number of ships, and the strength of the fleet. So that already gives us more control, rather than like with the current mission script. What it does is you spawn 5 ships, 6 ships, 7 ships. It's predefined how many ships will spawn, and then it just randomly selects from the ships that I've defined. So in the do you know when you in the TSN sandbox when you spawn a light Krellian fleet, it will spawn 3 ships, and it'll select from a Krellian cruiser and a battleship for the first ship, and then it'll select from a cruiser and a battleship for the second ship, and then a cruiser, a battleship, or a dreadnought for the third ship, and that's a light fleet. So you could end up with 3 cruisers, you could end up with 2 cruisers and a dreadnought, and these different combinations, which is nice because you can use spawn Krellian light fleet. You can do it 5 times. You can get 5 different fleets with 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 this. So that's what we currently have, but with this, you can. It gives you even more flexibility because you can define the maximum strength of that fleet in terms of hit points, and you can say, I want you to I don't want you to spawn any more than 10 ships, but you can go up to a strength of 50 when you spawn them. Or you can say you can spawn as many ships as you like, but I only want this fleet to have a strength of 25. So altogether, there's 25 hit points to take out. Now, you could do it as well where you include the shield strength. So how many shield points are there, and then how many hit points are there? Because obviously that will give you a different total. At the minute, it's just on hull points. So there's a lot that can be done with this. Like absolutely tons of customization, and this is from the alpha release of the game where the scripting's not even finished. The stuff that the tools that we're being given aren't even finished, and the potential there is massive. I'm quite excited for it actually. Developing the AI is going to take a lot of work, a lot of thought, a lot of mistakes, and going back and rewriting it. But I think eventually, potentially, we'll have a lot of very complex AI.
Yeah, smart AI that will avoid mines, for example.
Oh yeah, definitely. That mines aren't in the game yet, but like I can have this AI. I reckon when this SBS broad test works, I'll be able to have the AI avoid Nebula if it wants, or stick to Nebula, or fight in an asteroid field. You know, say, right, we're going to go into an asteroid field and we're going to fight, or we are going to avoid fighting in an asteroid field because we've got missile weapons. So they'll stay outside of the asteroid field. So if you want to escape that fleet, you fly into the asteroid field, and the fleet won't pursue you, because it'll be like, no, I'm not going in the asteroid field because I know I'm vulnerable in there. The other one as well that I talked about in my last stream was you could get ships like, do you know our drone cruisers that we've got that fire drones? They always come in toe to toe as well and sit there and get blown up. And now exactly, yeah, the drone cruisers could constantly calculate the range to the target and stay 1,000 away from it and go, no, I'm not coming into your beam marks. And every time you move towards it, it will start to move away to open that distance up again. Which will be cool, but then you got to think, how does that fit in with the fleet AI and stuff? It will get complicated.
Yeah,
it's going to get really complicated because then it's like, well, what are you weighing up against? Are you going to stick with your fleet and sit at the back and fire, or if the player comes after you, you're going to fly off on your own?
Having the fleet that would do both, so having the smaller, Lancer style ships going toe to toe, and then the sort of drone cruisers heading out would be quite interesting. Having a fleet split into 2.
Yeah.
How will getting tango work and all that sort of stuff, will you still be able to get a hard tango on the fleet and they won't leave you alone, or is that going to kind of be overridden by all this?
Well, it depends how it's coded.
Mm.
I could say if I'm being targeted by there's this it's this SBS broad test that is the big thing.
Yeah.
If when that's working, and I'm hoping like the next build that I get of the game that'll be working, because I flagged it up with Tom and he said, "Oh yeah, that shouldn't be working like that." So I think it was quite a simple fix, and he just literally quickly edited it or something. I can't remember. I emailed him and said, "Oh, have you got that fix at all?" In the hopes that I get the thing, but what that would allow us to do is say, right, and this is even better actually, say if that ship over there is not shooting at me, ignore it. If that ship over there though is shooting at me because they've got a lock on me, I'm going to attack that ship that's shooting at me. So it could be even smarter than that. It's not going to be like it used to be, where you could go, right, one ship, fly ahead, get tango on that enemy fleet. You drive away, and they'll just follow you stupidly and won't be able to shoot you. No, what's going to happen is they're going to go in, they're going to shoot at it, and the fleet's going to go, "Oh, we're going to attack you because you're shooting at us." Then the next ship's going to come in, attack a different target, and that different target's going to go, "Ah, I'm going to attack you now because you're shooting at me."
I think this is going to change some of the fleet orders that we have.
I think,
getting tango is not going to be as important anymore.
yeah, take tango is going to drop off because it might not work. Depends how we develop the AI, but it would be nice for it not to work, to be honest, because I think it would make things much more interesting.
Oh, definitely.
Because like we say at the minute, what you do is you go Lancer, go take tango on that enemy fleet. They fly in, big enemy Targoth fleet, and then they just sit there, just out of range of the weapons, with them pursued, and then the rest of the fleet rolls up, fires an EMP, fires a nuke, wipes them out, drops a couple of mines, done. It's quite easy. But if you go, right, Lancer, go take tango on that fleet, Lancer takes tango, it's drawing them away, then the other enemies come in, the other players come in, target the Targoth fleet. The Targoth fleet's going to go, "We're being targeted from over there. What are they doing? Let's attack them." Peel off Lancer. Or one or two ships are going to peel off. So the fleets themselves are going to go, right, we're going to peel off. Now it might be that you go, Lancer, keep a target lock on them to keep them distracted, so they'll be able to keep a target lock on the Targoth ship in the center, and then you have to shoot at that same ship. So Lancer's distracting them by keeping them a target lock, and they're like, "Oh, you're closest, and you've got a target lock on me. That's a problem. I'm going after you," not realizing that the one at 2,000 range has got another target lock on it. So that, if you consider the way that tactics might evolve.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential there.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You just got to build it. I don't. The scripting's no longer the limiting factor. The scripting is going to be so good. The limiting factor is, one, our imagination of what could be done, and two, how capable people are at doing it.
Yeah,
You know,
there's going to be a good balance there because you don't want to make it too hard that it puts people off either.
in terms of gameplay, yeah, it's gonna, a Krellian light fleet is gonna be much harder to attack.
Yeah, and that'll reduce these player OP. Player ships in Artemis 2 are OP.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
And we can just have a black hole and drop all the ships in it if we wanted to, like we did the other night when we were all on the Lancer.
Yeah. The other thing as well, I mean, if you look at this here, the ship data file, you've got your shield value, but you've also got hull points. The Krellian's hull points could be 50 hull points. You get the shields down, you've still got to strip through that hull.
Yeah.
You know, Torgoth's could be 200 hull points. You knock out the shields, Torgoth's still there going, well, I've still got 200 hull points. I'll take a bit of damage yet. And it's going to be very, very different. Very different. And I think this is going to be a really, really good change. Yeah. Right. I'm going to end the stream there after kind of speculating over what can and cannot be done with the AI. I think next stream I'm going to either come in and carry on with this fleet and start defining some formations, maybe. Although maybe that should be part of the AI control, where you define the different formations so that you can cycle through the formations. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of thinking in the background about what would an enemy fleet look like when it's attacking? What kind of things would you expect it to be doing? What kind of things should it do? What kind of things would an intelligent commander of that fleet do? Yeah. And then the other AI control, is that going to be a per ship basis? Is it going to be the same for all fleets? What's going to happen there? It's interesting stuff. Really interesting. Let's get rid of that bit of code. Oh no, let's keep that commented out. Alright, so if people have watched, thank you very much for watching. If you are watching it back later on, then thank you for the view as well. I'm going to be carrying on with these streams. I don't know, I'm not going to be doing one tomorrow evening, obviously, because we've got the TSN RP community games going on. But I might do one Sunday evening. I'm going to keep, like I say, every time I'm going to work on this practice script, I'm going to do a stream with it so that I've got it documented. So it's going to be a bit ad hoc. You might just have to keep your eye out and watch them back later. But it's just as and when I can work on it. I hope it's of interest. And if people want me to go through a bit more about explaining the Python code a little bit clearer, I can do that. Or if you just enjoy watching them and you want me to keep going with it and coming up with ideas, then well, that's what I'm going to be doing anyway. So all right, thanks for watching, and thank you, Garian, for joining as well.
Hello, and goodbye.